Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is web course and my name is Sajan. Today we are going to learn how to avoid unnecessary re-rendering in the React component. Let's get started. So here I have a list component, functional component that's rendering an input field and a label field. Okay. So the list component accepts props. That props here I destructure it, which contain text, checked, and ID. So I just passed the ID and checked value for the input, and the label as a text. Okay, that's the list component, and we have our app component. This is the main component in our application. This is going to render a header, which is h1 React, and an input field and an add item button, and then our list component, this one. Okay, so if you see the app component inside, we have a state variable called setItemText, which is a string type. And also we have a list item state variable, which is a list props, which is exactly the same thing, text, checked, and ID. Okay, so I initiated with two objects, which is item1 and item2. Both has an ID 1 and 2, and item1 checked flag I set it to false, and item2 checked flag is true. That's why you're seeing this tick mark. Okay. And also this app component, like I said, we have an input text here that actually when the user types something, it's gonna call an onChange event right here, and this onChange event is basically taking the value from the input field and setting it in the setItemText state. That's here we defined. Okay, and then we have a form. When you press enter or click this add item button, the form on submit event will trigger, and what it does is it just gonna take the existing list item object and then add a new one with the item text that we have entered here, and increment the ID with the current list item .length +1, so this will add 3, and the checked flag is false, and then we reset the setItemText. That's all happening in this application for now. Okay, so the main problem of this topic is how to avoid unnecessary rendering. Okay, so I'll show you an example actually right now. If you type something there, new item in a list, notice it just keep rendering unnecessarily ID1 and ID2. See this line number 12. It just keep rendering. The reason is if you type something on a parent component and that interaction is updating a state on the parent component, the function is going to re-render because it's just doing its job. But the list item thinks, okay, I've been called again, so I have to re-render again. Okay, without doing any analyzation or anything, it just rendering whatever it has in its memory. Okay, just keep rendering over and over again. This is something called memoization. So what is memoization? So memoization is actually a process that allows us to cache the values of an expensive function call. Okay, expensive function calls. So the next time the function is called with the same argument, let's say the arguments in this case is text, checked, and ID, the same props, is called with the same argument, the cached value is written rather than having to recompute the function. Okay, this ensures that our application runs faster because we avoid the time it would usually take to re-execute the function by returning the value that's already stored in the memory, right? That's the overview of memoization. But why use memoization in React? Okay, in React, functional components, when props within a component change, the entire component re-renders by default. Okay, if any value within the component updates, the entire component will re-render, including the functions or components that have not had their values or props altered. So that's the clear example we just saw. If you type something, it's just going to re-render. Okay, it thinks it's yeah, it's the props is still same, but it doesn't do any memoization internally. It just re-rendering over and over again. Okay, so how do we fix this in React? Okay, in general, React have already fixed this a very long time ago in a class components. So if you have used the React class components, there is a concept called pure components. Basically, we extend our class components with pure components. So under the hood, the pure components will automatically do this memoization, and it tells the React whether to render it or not. So the same concept goes for the functional components, but we have a method called Memo for functional components. Okay, so it's a part of React that the Memo was actually released with the React version 16. Okay, in the class components it's already there. It's called pure component, or you can also use that with one of the class component lifecycle hook, which is called should component update. So you can replicate the same behavior by using those. But in the functional component, we have an option to use Memo. So what is Memo? Yeah, in React, it's a method that's come from the React package. Let me import that. It's called Memo. See, it's a Memo. It's a higher order component, HOC in a short form. So the Memo components actually takes a component as a prop and returns a component that prevents a component from re-rendering if the props or values within it have not changed. Okay, let's take a quick example what it means. So once again, we type something in the app component, and the list component is re-rendering. Okay, now we're gonna fix this using Memo. So like I said, Memo is a higher order component, so we can pass our component as a props. So let's call think of Memo component, and then call the Memo function. If you see, the TypeScript says, okay, this Memo function accepts props, components as props. So in this case, let's do this list. Okay, cool. We have passed the list. Now what I do is I'll just go here and then paste that. That's it, because this line, it's returning a new component, which obviously does this memoization check under the hood, and then it returns a component. Now if you go back to the application and now start typing something, new item, notice it's not re-rendering at all. See, it's not. When you click enter, see, it's just gonna render ID 3, because it checks, the Memo checks, okay, is there any props changed? Should I have to update it? Yes, only this item ID, new ID has changed in the parent state, which was passed. Okay, I'm gonna update only this thing, this line. So that's why it just says ID 3. If you type whatever, no, it's not going to render at all. If you type enter, it's going to render because it's just going to render ID4. So this is one of the best performance optimization in React application, guys, because in a day-to-day software development using React frameworks, yeah, you might be rendering tons of lists or maybe tables or yeah, drop down, whatever. You can simply use this memo technique to avoid unnecessary re-rendering. You know, for example, you have some checklist item like this and you want to do something like check mark and then add or delete or create. You can easily prevent unnecessary rendering of the whole list altogether instead of rendering the one item in the list. This React Memo is really handy for performance optimization. So yeah, that's it guys for this tutorial. I hope you have learned something and I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. If you like this video, please give thumbs up and subscribe my channel. I'll see you on the next video. Thank you. Bye.